Hey everyone, Stephanie here again, and today, I tried my hand at speed painting for the very first time with my very first Snagga Boy, with the mindset that I will be having to recreate this look many times for the rest of my squad, and then by extension the rest of my army. So I used a lot of, I guess you could call them hobby shortcuts in this video just to get this done quickly, but I still wanted something that when I pick it up and look at it, I'm still proud of it. So I hope you enjoy seeing my process for this guy, and let's go ahead and get started. Alright, I primed him gray, and then I am just going to be going in on the eyes first. So I'm taking this bright yellow color and black, and because I'm doing the eyes first, I don't have to be super careful about how I'm doing it. I'm just kind of putting the color in there and just making sure I have decent coverage, and then going into the centers of them with the black. The only thing I'm really concerned with at this point is making sure that they're like equidistant to each other, you know? So you don't want one going off in a totally different direction. And then I'm taking War Boss Green, and I'm using this color to clean up the areas around the eyes, eliminate some of the overspill of the yellow, and then I also go ahead and base coat all of the skin with this color. Next, I'll be starting on one of 3 leather tones that I'm going to make. So I'm base coating areas of him with Abaddon black, and then after I base coat with the black, I go in with this dark brown color and I go over the edges and just like little patchy areas. I do a little bit of stippling and some cross hatching just to give it some texture and make it look dirty. And so what I'm going to be doing is making slightly different colors of leather. So the second one is starting with this beastly brown color. I'll be painting his pants with this and then going over it with a wash, and that's going to differentiate the first leather with the second leather, and then I do a third leather after this. So thinking about how I would be doing this when batch painting, I would probably go in with one of these colors first on all of the guys, but do different sections. So for example, the black leather for this guy will be his strap, and then for the next guy it'll be his pants, and then for the next guy it'll be his little pouch, and so on, so that I'm using all the same colors. They're going to look cohesive as a unit, but they're not all identical. I am taking Bugman's Glow, and I'll just be putting this color onto all of the fleshy parts that are underneath the pelt. So everywhere besides the fur is getting a good base coat with this, and then following this, once this is done on the loincloth and the pelt on his back, I'll just be taking Cadian Flesh Tone and doing a little bit of edge highlighting. I am trying to speed paint here, but I can't resist a little edge highlight here and there, you know? Then I am taking Storm Vermin Fur, and it looks really gray on camera. It's actually more of a brown gray, and I am just putting this onto the fur, and then because I was waiting for that to dry only, I did a little bit more edge highlighting on the pouch, but that was just because I had extra time. And then I am taking Nuln Oil and putting it into the cracks. While waiting for that to dry, I'm taking Galvorbeck Red, Nagarath Night, and I can't pronounce this light purple color, so I just call it light purple color. And I am taking Galvorbeck Red, and I am putting that into his mouth, in between his teeth, taking the purple and painting his tongue, and then taking the lightest tone and doing a little bit of wet blending to give his tongue some highlight and bring more attention to it. Then the fur had finally dried, so I am taking Celestial Gray, and I do some dry brushing, and then after this, I forgot to film it, but I do take my brush and take some of the areas that didn't get picked up so well by the dry brush. I just go ahead and do those by hand. This is lead belcher, and this is the main metal that I'll be using, so I am base coating all of the metal. So his gun, the other weapon, he has a lot of little trinkets here and there, and the toes of his boots, I paint all of those with this color, and then I take non-oil, give all of that a really good wash, wait for it to dry, and then actually do a second coat of non-oil before moving on to the next step. Then taking lead belcher again, I am just doing a little dry brushing, focusing on the edges to bring those out a little bit more, but keeping the deep parts dark with that non-oil. Then after this, I take a technical paint by Citadel called Typhus Corrosion, and I just place that on certain areas that I want to distinguish from other areas, and it just kind of gives it a little bit of texture and makes it look worn, which is exactly what I was going for. I should also mention I didn't want the entirety of the weapons to look corroded, just certain areas to make that texture stand out a little bit more. So you'll see I'm selecting certain areas and sticking to those areas only. And then I'm taking this technical paint by the Army Painter called Dry Rust, and I am putting that onto areas like the bolts and some of the deepest parts where I think it is kind of natural where rust would collect. I don't really know, but I just kind of did what I thought looked the best. Next, I am taking this bone color and I am base coating a bunch of areas. So first of all, I'm base coating all of the big plated sections on it, and I am also doing all of the bone on it, which there's quite a lot. I am also doing the teeth, these plated parts on the guns to kind of break up that color a little bit, and the little stitches all over. So I am using Skeleton Horde just a little bit, and just on the actual pieces of bone that are hanging off of him. That's the only place that I use this contrast paint. Then I take this heavy blue color, and with fake confidence, I was so nervous, I just kind of did random brush strokes, and I really wanted them to look like brush strokes, so I picked an older brush that's kind of splitting so you can see the texture of the brush more. I feel like I got kind of lucky. I really like the way that this turned out. I almost wish I had done more war paint all over. I'll definitely do more on the next ones, but yeah, I'm taking this exfoliating sponge. I usually use this to exfoliate my pores, but I took a little bit off the top, and I am just taking the original color, which is that bone color, and putting it on that brush and then dabbing it over the war paint so that it looks kind of chipped. And I was pretty happy with how this came out. Guys, this is where I start using oil paint, and I had a choice of using just a wash on the skin like a normal person, but of course I decided to do the most, and so I mixed blue and purple, and I am using just oil paint. I do not use a mixing medium anymore because I was having bad reactions to the harsh chemicals. So I take just the oil paint in really small amounts, and I put it onto two areas. So all of the cracks in his skin, like the deep parts, and then all of the undersides of everything. So the undersides of his arms, like near his armpits, anywhere that's cast into shadow, I put it on just a really teeny tiny amount. And then after I have placed all of that, I take a fluffier brush and start blending it out. I haven't even applied a second color at this point. I'm just blending the original color that I put on. Oil paints aren't for everyone, so I did make a video called 3 Ways to Paint Green Skin. I will link it on this video as well as in the info bar down below, just so that you can see how I would paint the skin if I wasn't using oil paints. Yeah, it's just 3 different ways. I probably would recommend way number 1 from that video just because it's the fastest. I'm taking this olive green mixed with white, and when I mix them, the color looks like this. And I am placing it onto the high parts, and I'm being very careful about just putting a teeny tiny little bit, mainly because I don't want this color to take over, and I don't really want this color blending with the blue. I want to keep the green mid-tone that we're getting from the base coat, if that makes sense. So I'm just putting this on very, very carefully, and then once again taking a fluffier brush and very delicately blending it out. This whole process was so quick and the blends are so creamy, and you already know I use oil paints and I've been using them more and more just because you can get really, really good results really, really quickly. It's almost like cheating. So yeah, this is just me placing that color on all the high parts, and then I'll just be blending that out. This is me from the future who's editing this, and I realized I forgot to film me painting the handle of his weapon in his left hand, and I just took corn red and I went ahead and painted that, as well as the case for the little shells on his gun. So that was the last thing that I did. This is the finished look. I went ahead and based him, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this process, and I will see you in my next video.